Hello everyone, good evening. So today we are going to learn configure Pega SSO authentications with an OpenID connect using Google as an identity provider. Okay. So in Pega we can configure SSO in multiple ways. So today we are going to see one way is using OpenID and the identity provider I'll be using Google. So I'll explain what is identity provider, what is OpenID on a very high level. I'll explain, and then I'll also explain the working, like I'll configure end to end, and in this whole video we will see. So if you completely watch this video, you'll be definitely able to connect or configure your Pega SSO with OpenID. Okay, your identity provider could be different. Here I'm using Google, but maybe in your applications you are using Azure, okay, or you are using something else, but the pattern and the implementation steps will be very similar. Okay, so before going, okay, inside that I have already implemented, so I'll just show you how it is working, and then I will go through that some of the concepts, and then the steps to all the steps how we can configure, like configuration steps. So let's first see that how it is working. So I have already configured. So in authentication rule, we have Pega will give an URL which we need to use that URL. Okay, so this is the URL which we need to use, and I have already created one operator ID. Okay, so training@qtometa.com. So this is what I'll be using to log in. So I'll just update the name. Okay, so that we can see that when we will log in that. Okay, so what I'll be doing, I'll log off, and you can see that in browser I have already logged in with this training@qtometa.com. So the moment I log in with this URL, it should work and it should directly show me the portal. Okay, so what portal I have configured here is that you can see that insurance user. So I'll be seeing that insurance portal. Okay, let me log off. Okay, and then let me hit that the URL and see if it is working. So this is the OpenID URL. Okay, so you can see that, okay, it didn't ask for any user ID and password and it got logged in. But what if I just if I try the same in incognito browser, then it will ask me to log off, and we see this in all the applications, right? So if you're already logged into your browser, okay, it will automatically logged in. Okay, otherwise it will ask you to enter your user ID and password. So this is how it is working. Okay, but now let's go and understand some concepts, and then we'll go for the configuration things. Okay, so here you can, like I have mentioned these three things. So Pega, obviously, so Pega is the applications. Okay, on the browser we will be using Pega, and then OpenID. So OpenID is a kind of protocol which works on OAuth. Okay, OAuth 2.0, through which, so that's a protocol, and on that protocol we will be connecting to identity provider Google. So Google is like what we have our ID, our details is there with the our accounts is there with the Google. So we are going to use the Google as a identity provider. Okay, means that our details will be fetched from the Google. Google will verify that yes, this person is a authorized person. Okay, so you can allow to log into your application. So in Pega, like here I mentioned the protocols for user authentication. Okay, so first let's understand what is authentications. You must have heard this word, authentications and authorization. Okay, so I'll explain from this diagram. So you can see that like there are multiple protocols through we can log into Pega, okay, or user can be authenticated. So the first one is authentication service. So it's like a custom service. It can be a basic authentications. In that case, the identity provider will be Pega itself. So you can see that our operator ID is stored in Pega, right? So, and then we log in with the user ID and password. So whatever the password we select. So in that kind of a scenario, identity provider is Pega itself, okay? Because our data is stored within that. The next one is in authentication service, we can use multiple basics, custom, okay? There are like many ways we can use. If you search in PDN, you'll find that the detailed article on that one. And then next is SAML. Okay, so we are not going to talk about that one. We'll see in some other class. And then we have a token credential, and then we have an anonymous as well. But we are going to see OpenID. Okay, so this is the protocol which we are going to see. So that means the rule which we are going to create, auth service rule, we will be creating of type OpenID connect. So what happens that, like you can see the J2EE container. So like Pega runs on a J2EE container. Inside that, what is happening, Okay, so here this is the Pega, right? So it is a secure environment and the model operator ID. Okay, so what happens is that either you can, like when you're logging, right, so your operator ID can there in that applications, or there could be possibility that it's not there as well. So on the fly we can create the operator ID, and then in operator ID we configure access group, and access group can have role and privileges. So like logging to Pega applications is authentications part. Okay, so like you are allowing to log into applications, that's authentications, but what you can access, like let's say you just logged into Pega applications but you cannot create a case. So creations of a case, like that determinations we say authorization. So you have the authority to create a case or not, so that comes under authorizations. But logging to Pega applications, that's the authentication. Now let's go to the next thing. So we'll just learn on a high level what is OpenID Connect. Okay, so OpenID Connect is an identity layer built on top of, as I was explaining, OAuth 2.0 framework. It allows third-party applications. So here our third-party applications is Pega to verify the identity of the user. So we will be verifying the user identity, okay, from the Google. Okay, so that is what it is saying, verify the identity of end user and to obtain the basic user profile information. So we will be verifying against the Google data or the Gmail data, and we will fetch the basic details like the email ID or the first name, last name, that display profile, those kind of informations we can fetch. OIDC uses JSON web token, so we call it JWT, okay, in short form, which can obtain using flows conforming to OAuth 2.0 specification. So what happens that, like when we connect to, let's say when we connect to identity providers, they returns the data in a like JWT token, and once we extract that JWT token, we can get all the informations like email ID, profile details, and other things. So we will see that. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, so what are the steps, okay, using Google identity provider to log into Pega, okay, Pega application. So what are the steps we need to do? Okay, so the very first step is we need to create a project and generate client ID and secret code inside the Google. So we need to log into Google console, Google Cloud Console, and there we need to create a project. So if you have like seen this kind of a things, either if you want to use Google Maps or if you want to use Facebook apps for like for anything, we need to create the applications there. Similar way in cloud also, Google Cloud, if you want to use their services as identity provider, we need to create a project there. I'll show you, I'll not show the whole steps, that you can find it out. I can attach that link in that video. Okay, we have that in PDN as well, or you can find it out in on Google as well, not a problem. Okay, if you search in Google, you'll get that. So first we need to create and generate the client ID and secret code. The second things we need to do is we need to add authorized redirect URL at Google Cloud site. I'll show you that one. Okay, so let's say that authorized URL, right? So basically our application's URL we need to give. I'll show you when I'll do the configurations. And then so the first two steps we need to perform at a Google Cloud site. From third step we will come back to Pega. And so first we'll create OpenID authentication service rule in Pega. So this is the first step. After creating the authentications rule, okay, we need to fill the details, and so that is where I'm saying add the required details in auth service rule. So I'll be showing what all details, okay, we are going to add. We will see that. The fifth is like while filling the details, we need one more details, is we need to create a trust store rule, okay, for secure connections. Okay, and then sixth one is we need to create a test operator ID. Okay, and we need to make sure that we need to mark that external. Okay, so that like it won't ask for the user ID and password, it will just verify from the like external, and it will allow us to log in. The seventh step is just the testing. So copy the SSO URL from auth rule, okay, and do the testing. So we will get that endpoint URL also from the auth rule itself. Okay, so that is the steps which we are going to perform. So these are the some of the required details which we will be needing when we'll go for the end-to-end configuration. So the first thing is that authorizations endpoint. Okay, so here you can see that authorizations endpoint is that I have mentioned. This I got it from the Google itself. Okay, and then the second one is the token endpoint also. So this also I got it from the Google. And then issuer. Okay, issuer is again Google, so accounts.google.com. Client identifier and secret code. Okay, so this again I'm saying that once you create a project you can get this detail. Okay, and then a scope, we are going to use OpenID, profile, and email, and claim like what claim we will be using from that one. We will be using email, so we will see that during our configuration. Okay, so but before going to there, okay, I just want to explain that how these things works also. Okay, so this is one of the diagram, though it's not like from the Google identity. Okay, so this is the overall flow, okay, when we use this OpenID connect. Okay, so here this diagram is using Azure AD, okay, but just in place of this one we'll be using the Google identity provider. Rest everything will be the same. So just let's revisit this step. So the first step is that user, okay, so user is opening a browser, and then what he'll be doing, okay, he'll be entering that URL. Okay, so entering a URL means the what hit that once I'll hit that URL, it will navigate it to web app. Web app means that our Pega application. So that is the second, navigate it to web app. Third is once we navigate it to web app, right? So what our applications Pega will do, it will redirect to Azure AD, or it will redirect to Google identity provider to validate that authentications, right? So that is the third step it is saying, redirect to Azure AD. So here we will be redirecting to Azure AD, Google, okay. And then what will happen, and then again user will enter that. In fourth step you can see that user will enter the credentials, but if users have already entered that credentials and that sessions is valid in the browser, it will take that, okay. And then the fifth one is user consents to permissions, that yes, like I want to go ahead, okay, and then connect with this Azure AD, okay, because see, end of the day you are using like provider, right? You are like most of the times you have seen that when you are accessing from one application, let's say you are just downloaded one new applications, and then it asks to log in. Okay, so when you log in through Google, it asks to give a consent, okay, that yes, you want to allow that Google, okay, so that's the consent. And then 6, that the token will get exchanged. So that web browser will get the token, okay, issue token, access token, and refresh token. Okay, so they'll get that access token, and then again redirects access token to web app. So again that token will get redirected to web applications, and then web applications will validate the token. You can see that, okay, that this comes from the valid like place. It's not that if you're connecting to Google providers a token, like you can like web applications can accept from other places, it won't accept, okay. So that's the token validations will happen, and then finally you'll return to return secure page to users, means that like and then we'll extract the token, and then we'll allow user to log in with that email ID, okay. So this is on a high level process flow, but we are going into like once we configure, you'll get to know that, okay. So let's go ahead and see in Pega. But before going to Pega, what we need to see is that the first step, okay, so now we need to follow this step. So let's go back to this step. So the first step is create project and generate client ID and secret code. So what you need to do, you need to navigate it to cloud.console.cloud.com, okay, and I'll attach, as I'm saying, I'll attach that link, okay. I'll attach that link, okay. You'll get a complete link how you can create the project, okay. So here you can see that this is the, here you can create a new project, okay. I have already created that project, so I'm not going to create, but from here you can create a project. And once you create a project, okay, you need to come here. Let me open that. So you need to come to your application, so that you can say project or applications, and here you need to create web client 2.0, okay, auth 2.0 client IDs. You need to create web client, okay, and then from here you can download that auth client details. So it will give you that the client ID and then the secret code, okay. So if I go inside this one, let's go there. And okay, so one thing I was talking about, that you need to add authorized URLs. Let's see that the add authorized redirect URL at Google Cloud site. So this is what you need to do, okay. So if you see this is the HTTPS localhost peer web peer auth, okay. So this is the redirect URL which you will get, which we will be getting from our auth service, okay. So that I'll show you, don't worry about that one. So that we need to add it here in authorized redirect URLs. So that we need to do, okay, and then just save it, okay. That's it. So here once we'll save it, we can download it, and in auth consent and screen, maybe we need to give some consent, okay. If you're getting some error, and you may need to define that the test users ID as well here, that if you're not in production, let's say that if you're creating and if your applications is not in production, then maybe you need to add the test test users. Okay, so whatever the user you're testing, you might need to do that. And if you're getting an error, you might need to provide the consent as well. So some configurations is required, okay, here. Okay, so let's move ahead. So let's say that we did that, we configurations, and we downloaded that this one from credentials. We downloaded that this OAuth client details. So it will give us the secret code, and then it will give us secret code, and then what is that, client ID. Okay, so let's go ahead and to Pega. Now what we'll be doing, we will be logging to Pega. So the first step in Pega is that we need to create a authentication service rule. So I've already created with OpenID, so I'll create with OpenID 1. So here I'll go, and then in where you'll find auth service rule, so you need to go to sysadmin and come to here to authentication service. Yeah, here you can see that. So here we can click create. So you can see that I have already created OpenID. Okay, OpenID name. So this time I'll create OpenID 1. Any name you can give it. OpenID 1. Okay, so this will become your URL. So you can see that this will be your URL, OpenID 1 peer web peer auth shortcut descriptions. Let's create that. Create and open. So now we need to give all the required details. Okay, so I have all the details here. You can see that. Okay, so I have the authorizations endpoint URL, token endpoint URL, issuer, and client identifier. So most of the details, what I'll be doing, I'll be copy from this one. Okay, and I can add this in. If you need, let me know. I can share these details with you. Okay, so for now, what I'll be doing, I'll just copy from this rule to the new rule. So this will be, oh, somehow I have created this SAML. Sorry, let me create that OpenID. So here we need to select OpenID connect, and then we need to give OpenID 1 and create. So once we create that, okay, so the first things we need to give alias. So we can give anything, let's say so whatever we'll give here, right, OpenID 1, that will become our URL will end with that only. So you can see that it's ending. So this is the like just the URL, how you're formatting, you can give anything. Okay, so I've just given OpenID. So this is my URL, which let's say if I'm giving to real users, this is the URL which I need to distribute. Okay, here you can add that logo as well. Okay, now so this is the, we need to add the authorizations endpoint. So I have the authorization endpoint here, so I just copied and pasted there, and then this is the token endpoint. So I'll give the token endpoint. User endpoint and logout endpoint is not necessary. And then in issuer, so we need to give exactly this detail. Okay, if we give something else, it will fail. And in place of certificate, I have already created, so I'll just use refer that Google. Okay, I'll explain that. So let's open that this one. So in this one also, this is also key store URL. So you need to select reference to a URL, and then you can select this is the cert URL, which I can share here, or I can keep this one here as well. Cert endpoint, which we need to use, and this is the URL which we need to use. So just I'm like caching that. Okay, so this is the one which you need to create. So this is a trust store. Just what you need to do, just write some name. If you're creating for the first time, click on it. Okay, let's say if I'm creating in Google one, okay, then click here and create open, and from the drop down what I'll be selecting is that reference to a URL, and then I can just give that URL, and that's it. If your URL is not, you need to select JSON web key. Okay, so that you need to select, and if you submit, if it will not able to connect, it will throw error. Okay, so it's working, and that is where it got saved. So I can refer that Google one also here. Okay, so now still few things we need to give. Okay, so we can just here give OpenID with Google. So something you need to give just descriptions, which is mandatory, and then few other things is also mandatory. Map operator from claim. So this is like So here, as I was saying, that in a scope we need to add like OpenID profile email. Okay, so this will tell that what all information that Google identity provider should give you. Okay, like if you just say OpenID, so it will give you the minimum details. If you'll say email as well, so it will give email. If you'll say profile, then it will give you display profile, your first name, last name, and few other details. So I'll be just adding those as well, email and then profile. Client and secret code, so let me update that. I have in my this tab. Okay, so I'll just like update it, and don't share that client ID and secret code with anyone. Okay, so first I enter the client ID and now I'll enter the secret code. Okay, now last things is left is, so here if you see I mentioned that. Okay, one second. So here I have mentioned that in claim we need to mention email. So for now I'm trying to log in with email. If you want to log in with any other attribute, that also you can do. I'll show you that what all attribute we are getting. Okay, so for now the operator ID will be email, and I'm not going to create operator on the fly. I have already created operator which I showed in the beginning. Okay, training@cryptometer.com. So with this operator only I'll be going to log in. Okay, so this is the operator ID, and I was saying that we need to use external authentications. So this is, I have marked it. Okay, so if I try to log in, okay, by entering user ID and password, this won't work because it has been marked external authentications. So if you see, most of the configurations we are done. Okay, now we just, what if we go to again, what is the steps now? Copy the SSO URL from auth rule and do the testing. All the steps we did it. Let's revisit once again. Create project and generate the client ID and secret code. Okay, so that I already had it, but I explained the steps that you can do it. Add the authorized redirect URL. So I was saying that redirect URL, which redirect URL you need to use. So this is the redirect URL. You can see that. Okay, so system is, Pega is automatically adding that redirect URL. So this is what, if I go here and show you, I have added that redirect URL. So you can see that here. So this is the redirect URL I have added. Okay, and then we added that. Let's go back to here. So we are done with first two steps which we need to do at Google Cloud side, and then from the third step we are starting with Pega. So we created a auth service rule. Okay, OpenID 1. We gave that name, and then we added the required details. So we added the authorizations URL, token URL, and then we added the client ID, secret code, and then we added the trust store. Okay, and then we have already have operator ID. Okay, which we have marked as external auth, and then also we updated that claim that yes, we want to use email ID as a value, and with that only I want to log in. We are not enabling so if we check this checkbox, we need to we have some more configurations to create the operator on the fly, but we are not doing it right now. Okay, so that we can see later. So now it's time for do the testing. So let's copy this URL. So this is the URL which we need to copy. Okay, so let's just see that if it is working. So first I'll just like log off here only and test it, because I have already logged into with that user. So let me log off and test it. So see, it is asking. Okay, why it is asking? Last time it didn't ask because we have changed that URL. So just we need to provide the consent. So if you remember, this is the step I was saying, right? I think I have closed that. Okay, so if you remember that the Azure AD1, I was showing that on the fifth step we need to give that consent. So I just need to give the consent. And once I gave the consent, right? So we see that like when we use like logging through Facebook, or when we log in through Google for any mobile app, we need to say that I'm giving the consents. The moment I gave the consents, it allowed me to log in. So if you see, this is that Qtometer, that is the user ID. Okay, so it's working, no issue. So you can see that how quickly we configured that. Now let's go back again to Pega. Okay, so everything is working. Okay, nothing is left here, just that the things which is left is that the debugging part, that how we can debug. Okay, so to debug, Pega provides that two classes, okay, which we need to enable that logging. So I have already done that. So this is the class. If you just search with OIDC client handler, so you'll get this, and set that log levels all, so you'll get that whole flow. I'll show you in that log file, okay, that we can see the whole flow, and also we can see that the token, okay, token, and we will and then if you want to see that what all informations, if you want to extract that token and wants to see what all informations is there in that token, so we can use this site, okay, viewing content inside that token, JWT token. So we have the site jwt.io. If you place your token, it will show you that what all details you have in that one. And now, like, before going to that part, okay, again I'll explain that how the flow is working. So see, the flow is working is the first we're hitting this OpenID 1 URL, then it is redirecting to this applications to this URL, okay, PRauth, and then it is calling the authorizations endpoint. Okay, so in authorizations endpoint, what Pega is doing, it is passing the client ID and secret code. Okay, so that Pega is doing, and after passing that one, we are getting authorizations code, and then in second call, so basically two call is happening. In second call, Pega is passing authorizations code to this token endpoint URL, and we are getting the token. And after getting the token, okay, it is verifying the token is from the valid source, okay, and then extracting and allowing us to log in. So now let's see that log, okay. And now you cannot like configure that log settings from the maybe from the dev studio. So you need to come here, okay, over come to resources in admin studio. If you come to log categories here, okay, so here we can create a new log category, and let's say if I'm saying OIDC, whatever the name you want to give, OIDC, and then logger. So you can just search with OIDC client handler. So we can see that we are getting these two classes. Okay, so I have already done that. Let me see that. Okay, I have done that. See, this is the test which I have done it. Okay, so we should see that something. Let me see, change log level. So I'll make it all. Okay, all, and then I'll try once again. Okay, to access that URL, so that that log freshly will get that log. So let me again just, I think this, and let's enter a validity. Okay, so I'll just copy this again, and this time I'll try to log in incognito window. Okay, so I need to enter the user ID because the browser doesn't have that. Okay, so I just need to use that. So see, it is working fine. So just now, what is the time? 6:06. Okay, so let's go and check that log file. So we need to go to system operations logs, click on log file, and then I'll just click here. I'll remove that admin things, and we can see that. So this is the token endpoint URL. So if you see the whole initiating OIDC flow, okay, and then first constructing, I was saying, right, that first it will call the authorizations endpoint URL by passing client ID and secret code. So it's saying constructing authorizations URL for OIDC provider, and then once we get that authorizations endpoint, like authorizations code, then it will call and get the token. So constructed authorizations URL for OIDC provider. So you can see that, okay, redirect URL, everything is there, and inside that we are passing client ID, okay, and then we must be passing secret code and then authorizations code as well, and then finally we got the validating ID. Let me copy this whole things and place it on here. Okay, so we can see that here it was calling, so code authorizations code it is passing, as I was saying, right, and then a scope also, that what all a scope OpenID email profile, and then it is passing the client ID, okay, and secret code is not passing because in the second, like it will for the after getting the authorizations, it will pass that to get the token, it will pass the authorizations code because the secret code has been already validated. And validating ID token received from access token, so I was saying that it will validate the token as well. So now let's copy this token and see that what all informations we have. So which I was saying that on the jwt.io we can validate that jwt. So this is all for debugging purpose. You can do that. So I'll just like here I'll remove this one and enter this. So you can see that, okay, this is the email ID which I'm using. So let's see if you want to use some any other attribute. So picture is blank, and you can see that name also we are getting, okay, even the picture also we are getting, okay, so everything we are getting. Let's see if you want to use the whole details and create that operator ID on the fly, that also you can do. But I already had operator ID training@qtometer.com which I was using. Even it's saying email is verified or not. So sometimes what happens, if we access any application, it says that go and verify that application, verify your email ID, and then only you'll be allowed to log in. So those kind of feature is there. You can configure, and then if email is verified, you can check, okay, that if email is verified, then only you can allow to log in. So that kind of things you can do that. So let's see, let's visit again. So here, so we saw this one as well, and then we show like how we can view the content also inside the token. So I hope this will so we are done with this, okay, the end-to-end configurations, and I hope this will help you. So please try and let me know. And you can try, like, see, Google is kind of a free, okay, you can try on Google Cloud, okay. Maybe you need to register or give the billing details once. They'll not charge you, just they need the billing details like AWS to access the services. And this you can install localhost anytime, okay. And why I'm saying is that usually SSO, like junior folks doesn't do, okay, they'll see that, okay, or they'll think that only the leads will do, and that too from onshore. But yeah, using this way, okay, either with the SAML or OpenID, you can try using your local machine, local system from your personal additions. So please try and let me know. If it is not working, I'm ready to help you. So that's it for today's sessions. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye.